Welcome back to the channel, guys. Big Dog Brett. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We have a very special guest on today, JC Shelton from the Players Lounge. He's the editor over there. He's going to be joining us for the show today. We're going to be talking about some Georgia football in the upcoming season. Less than 100 days to go. I'm excited. I know a lot of UGA fans are excited. I don't make a lot of content in the offseason, and it's just because there's not a lot there for me. I know JC, he's able to get into and find some great content. So if you guys get an opportunity, go over, check out JC and the Players Lounge. You can follow him on Twitter.
And then UGA Football Live with JC Shelton. Quick Google will take you to YouTube and Spotify and Apple. And the Players Lounge, really easy to find, right? TPL Georgia or the Players Lounge, whatever you're a fan of. We have Tennessee and Clemson as well. If you happen to get some stragglers in here that follow those teams.
So give us a brief rundown of the Players Lounge and what makes it so different than every other college show out there.
Absolutely. So I just happened, and it was by God's grace, really, that I was able to get in with Aaron and Keith Marshall there at the Players Lounge when they needed somebody to run their editorial, because they switched. Basically, it started as an NFT platform right. and with former Dogs, right? It was really mainly a Georgia platform there. And then, they switched over and they found this mission. And it was something that Keith and Aaron feel really strongly about, is providing players with a platform, right, to build their brand really in this NIL space, which was totally new when Keith and Aaron started back in 2019, 2020, right there with the NFT. And then they switched over in 21 with the NIL rules. The new ones were established. And really to give players a brand and an opportunity to build their own platform personally, but also if they wanted to go into sports media, which a lot of guys do, right, at that level, because they already know the sport so well. And if you can work yourself into doing this, right, going on a podcast, convey your thoughts in a manner that people can at least understand, then you have that in your back pocket for when football ultimately ends. And NFL is not for long. We all know that. Some guys do, some guys don't, right? So basically that was their mission, right, to provide an opportunity for you guys to build something in their career, but also pay them. And that's something that Aaron and Keith did not get. All right. So, and in their times, they happened to be in the time where they didn't get any money for their playing days and sacrificing their bodies and such. So that was their starting mission. And, we've been blessed to have a lot of really good Georgia players on and other personalities throughout the Players Lounge. And, the last year or so, we've run an editorial. I think March was our year anniversary. So we're working stories off of what these guys talk about. It's been a lot of good stuff. I tell you, throughout this first season, this was really our first season in editorial. And we got a lot of insight there that was really awesome. And, growing up, Georgia alum and Georgia fan, I try to be at least as objective as I can on most of my things. But I just thought about, me back in the day when I was younger and getting some of this insight and access into what these players think on a game-to-game basis was just absolutely awesome. So if I know from a fan perspective, I would love that stuff. And I think that's what makes it so special. And I was so interested in it because, you get in press conferences are among the worst sources of information. Sometimes it depends on coaches, right? And Kirby Smart's he's not going to be that guy.
A lot of coach speak.
The coach speak. And if you have a coach speak guy like a Kirby Smart, then your players are going to only player speak at the press conferences, right? So you don't get much there, right? And this is kind of the outlet to where you can say more, and these guys do. So that's just really the awesome thing about it. You get some access, and you get some nuggets and football is a way of life down here, especially for the schools that we even have on the Players Lounge right now, in Clemson and Tennessee as well. And that's just so valuable to me as a fan. So I definitely want to get involved in that and make it better. And we're trying to expand, like I was telling you before the call, to other schools. So that's really the benefit you get for a few dollars a month there.
Well, I got to tell you, as far as a content creator, it's so incredibly difficult to get information that's close to the team, what's actually going on, get a real good feel for what's going on in the locker room, as they say. So for me, every time that I see the Players Lounge pop up, I'm going to watch that. For those of you who don't know, if you're a player at the middle school or high school level, and you want to get a real insight of what it's like being on one of the premier brands in college football, go watch the Players Lounge. They have not only do they have current players, they also have legends on there. So a lot of the younger crowd's probably not going to know who Champ Bailey is, but I bet you they know who Malachi Starks is. So can you imagine having those two guys sitting next to one another, carrying on a conversation about the standard at UGA, about the standard at a college football program? That just happened. So you can go watch that video. You've got Aaron Murray talking to Jordan Hall, Jake Fromm's on there. There's the actual players, their input on what they see every day. If you don't know who Branson Robinson is, you might want to buckle up your chin strap, because he's going to be back here pretty soon, and he's going to be one of the most electric players on the UGA team. And there's a video of him talking a month ago about the importance of discipline. So if you get an opportunity, you need to go ahead. There'll be a link down below this video. Go over to the Players Lounge and subscribe to their channel. They put out content that is not daily content, because sometimes that can get repetitive and boring. They put out a level of content that you cannot get anywhere else. If you watch ESPN, you're going to get 2 or 3 minutes at the most of UGA football or your favorite team. If you watch the Barstool Sports, you're going to get a moment or two or a second. But if you go over to the Players Lounge, you're actually going to get to hear the players speak about how they feel. And I've never gotten the impression that anything they say is repressed. It seems raw. It seems real. It seems honest. So if you want to know what's going on in the locker room, that's where you need to go. So go check those guys out. Go get a video. Go over there and subscribe to their channel. Their channel's growing. It's new. What's the subscriber count right now?
I don't know. The last time I looked at it, it was like 12K, I think.
Yeah, they're right at 12K. Guys, it won't be long before this will be over 100,000. But get in now and go check those guys out. You can follow them at Twitter, the Players Lounge. Just tons of great content over there.
No, thank you for the plug. That's perfect. And like I said,
plug, man, that's the way it is. That's the truth. I don't plug anybody. I just tell it like it is. If it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good. So
no, it's good. You got a lot of hardworking, smart people that are just trying to do the best they can.
That's why they won't hire me over there.
No. So it's like, and at that one thing I'll add into it that I've been thinking about is, and it's from a fan perspective, because that's who we're talking to here.
Right.
As we grow into other schools and we get basically opponents lined up and their shows, I mean, that's something I would watch as well. Just from a fan perspective, we're about to play Tennessee. Obviously, we already have Tennessee. We're about to play Clemson.
Right. And
we have both of those schools in the Players Lounge right now with weekly content from videos from players. And we even had Josh Heupel on last month for Tennessee. So, as we approach those games, and especially the kickoff game here against Clemson and Atlanta, they're going to have players talking about that before. So it'd be some good insight on the other side, because a large part of that is behind other lines, right? Behind your enemy lines, what's going on there? What are their thoughts? And you're probably going to get some bulletin board material for your Clemson friends and or Tennessee fans you're about. Yeah.
I think Davo does his own it's on poster board material, man. He puts some stuff out, makes you go, have you seen this bedazzled football? I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying he said it. So, well, I do want to jump into a little bit of get your take on the upcoming season, some of the players, some of the other things out there. So if you're up for it, I got a handful of questions here, and we'll go through them kind of quick. And I want to see, because you kind of have a little more of an inside track than most people. So other than Carson Beck, who do you consider would be the most impactful player this year for UGA?
It's a very difficult answer to point one guy out. I think offensively, and to me, after coming away from that spring game, I'm going to go Trevor Etienne at running back, but I'm going to give it an honorable mention, okay?
Okay.
And the reason I say Trevor Etienne is because me and my colleague at TPL Georgia, Graham Coffey, I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with him. We both came away with basically the same takeaway from that performance, right? It is a spring game, and all the other things that come with that. It's just not a very competitive environment from that standpoint, but at the same time, a lot of these young guys need to prove themselves, and especially transfers. So you see almost an uptick in their play to me in these spring games. And Trevor Etienne, you can kind of tell, you tell athletes, you watch enough football in your life, or really in sports in general, you can tell a guy who moves differently than the others. And that is Trevor Etienne. right there in that backfield. The quickness he has, the acceleration, short burst, obviously ran through the tackles well, but also caught the ball, right? Yeah. And I think, and you look back at his Florida career, almost 2,000 yards rushing in 2 seasons, handful of touchdowns, led the Gators in touchdowns last year with 8. I mean, you knew he could run inside, outside. But I think the biggest thing for me coming away from that spring game and seeing him in action was the way he can catch the ball is going to be an additive addition to this Georgia offense that really wasn't present last year.
Well, you have to.
Now, Dejon Edwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dejon Edwards, he did catch the ball. Well, I think he had almost 30 catches. But I think Trevor Etienne is going to be better in that aspect. And they didn't have it last year to me. And I think you look back at those offenses with DeAndre Swift and Kenny McIntosh, James Cook, that different level that you have to really cover, and you have to. And if he's going to prove himself early in the season, teams are going to have to start playing to that, playing to a running back who can catch out of the backfield and get out in front of you. And then once he gets the ball in his hands, too, that's where you really see the change of direction straight north. Every time he caught the ball, go back and look at that spring game, straight north, up the field. Didn't mess around, and he's going to run through you or run around you. I love that, man. I think he just moved totally different, and I think he is the RB1 there. And you use that, and Georgia loves to rotate, right? But you use him with Branson. Hopefully he gets back and is comfortable enough to get some early reps in and get his feet wet. But also Roderick Robinson and that 1-2 punch of really 2 really physical backs. And then Trevor Etienne, who can be physical, also can catch the ball in the backfield. That's why I say Trevor, and I think that honorable mention here is Dom Lovett. I mean, I've heard so many good things about him from his teammates, right? And I think the camaraderie he has with Carson Beck, the comfortability there, he led Georgia receivers last year in receiving, minus Brock Bowers in receptions. I think he's an easy pick to be wide receiver 1. Can he make that next step and to be a real game changer? Now it's going to be different, and I was thinking about this before our call even. It's going to be different for how defenses play Georgia this year without Brock Bowers. And we're going to see that in the first couple games, right? So are they going to blanket coverage on Dom Lovett because they know he's probably the number 1 option, right? And can Dom really still produce off of that? And I think that leaves an option for some of these other receivers to really take a new role, and that is, your Dylan Bell, Colby Young is a red zone 3rd down threat early. Maybe he can produce more in the first, second downs throughout the season. And then Ra Thomas there, I think he's going to see a jump.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that anytime you lose a Thanos caliber player like Brock Bowers, because there was really nothing he couldn't do. And by the way, it wasn't just that Brock Bowers was athletic. It wasn't that he was just great at catching the ball. You also have to remember that this guy's a student of the game. And there was really no better way to showcase that ability than if you go back and you watch the Ohio State game, where it's 4th down. There's a pass to Brock Bowers. He catches the ball. And as he goes out of bounds, he gets his left hand down, both feet come off the ground, and he leverages the ball forward, even though it's out of bounds, forward to get the first down, because he knew the rule is that the ball progresses even if it's out of bounds, so long as it's where you touch when you're out of bounds. So he had a hand in, so that counts. The ball progressed forward. That picks up a first down for Georgia. Without that, Georgia probably doesn't win that game. That was a complete game changer, and you can just chalk that up to him being a student of the game. So when you lose a player of that caliber, you've got to replace him with somebody who is electric, who's very, very good at what he does. Me personally, I think the best person to kind of fill that role is going to be Dylan Bell. I think Dylan Bell is extremely football intelligent, and a lot of players at UGA are. But I think Dylan Bell, just the diversity he has, where he can run the ball, he can throw the ball, he can catch the ball, he can run routes, he can block. I mean, he is absolutely electric, and I don't think he's getting enough credit. That's just me. I'm kind of a Dylan Bell homer, but what can you do?
Oh, it's easy to be that way too. I mean, he instantly became a fan favorite when he was at running back. They just put him at running back. Hey, we're short here. And they saw enough in practice to know that he was going to be good enough to play running back in the University of Georgia, running back U, right? That's an incredible display of athleticism. Like you said, football knowledge as well. And I can easily see him as, let's say, Dom Lovett really pops off the first couple games. Defense start blanketing him. Dylan Bell is going to have more space to work. They use him in so many different ways, though. And I think you touched on Brock Bowers there and losing him. And I've been asked this a couple of times this offseason. My takeaway, just my opinion, they're not going to replace that production in one player. They're going to replace it in the entire offense. Everybody's going to get the ball. Carson Beck is so good because they have a quarterback that can really throw the ball around, get it in multiple ways, get him in the right play. And then Mike Bobo and Todd Hartley in that tight end room right there, they use him in so many different ways. Benjamin Urasek has more of that. Brock Bowers as a run style guy after the catch, really athletic. That's not to say that Oscar Delp can't do that, but I think they're going to use him more in that way. In your end arounds from the inline position and H-back, you can see Urasek taking that role as well. But I just want to harp on that this is not going to be, somebody's not going to catch 120 yards, rush for a touchdown, catch a touchdown, catch 10 passes like Brock Bowers. I just don't see that happening. I think that's going to be spread around. And Georgia's going to be, finished number 5 offense last year. They're going to be around that as well. And I think there's a possibility that they supersede that, but it's all in, can they get comfortable enough in their offense, and especially in the second half when defense is locked down, when they have a half a ball underneath them and they know what you're doing, can you keep that production on third downs in the red zone, especially in the fourth quarter, because that's where Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers, Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint was so good at really not dropping any passes. So that's going to be the keys that we're going to see. I think we're going to see it as early as Clemson, because that Clemson defense is returning a lot of talent. They're nasty guys.
Yeah, they're going to have an outstanding defensive line, especially. But one of the things I want to point out to some of the viewers is some people are not stats junkies like I am. If you go back and you look at UGA's receiving core last year, UGA had 8 players that had 20 or more receptions, and all of them, save Dejon Edwards, averaged more than 10 yards a catch. That's a lot, guys. And by the way, Dejon Edwards was 9.9 a catch, so he's right there at it. So there's other players out there that we haven't touched on that I want to throw a little bit of love to. Oscar Delp is still with the team, right? And you've also got Pierce Sperling. He's still with the team. Both of these guys are tight ends. They were rated highly. Pierce Sperling played in the FSU game. He had 1 catch for 31 yards. Oscar Delp had 3 catches for 31 yards. So Georgia does have very competent tight ends to fill that role. So if you're a fan and you don't keep up with all of the people who's playing backups, Georgia's going to reload. But please understand, it's like Georgia's defense from a few years back. That was a generational defense. You're looking at a generational talent in Brock Bowers. So they're going to fill that role, but they're also going to move some stuff around. If you go back to, if you look at last year, this is one of the things that as a Georgia fan, it hurts me to say, but it's a good thing. Our receiving yards was 4,200, almost 4,300 yards, while our rushing was only about 2,700. And so we kind of fell off in the rushing department, mainly, in my opinion, due to injuries. If you go back to the year previous, Georgia had 4,400 yards passing, almost 3,100 yards receiving. And if you go back one more year to 2021, Georgia's passing was at 3,700 and 2,800. To me, that last year's performance in rushing, we really we got more out of that than probably what we should have. But I feel like if we'd had everybody healthy, man, we would have had an absolutely killer offense. I think we would have finished in the top 3 for sure. Let's see here. Real quick, strongest position group. What do you think Georgia's strongest position group is this year?
Oh, that's easy, honestly. Linebacker and close second offensive line. That linebacker group, and I was thinking about this before our call, right? So I think best in the country, especially inside. Ismail Mondon returns. He was getting first-round grades, but injured a lot last year, played injured because he's a dog. But very, very talented. He puts a good year of tape on. He's going to get drafted in the first round. He has all the tools, right? He has the experience. He probably knows the defense better than any linebacker right now as the most senior guy, right? And then you have also just adding into that group from a young perspective, and Raylan Wilson and C.J. Allen coming off the freshman All-American year. Now you signed a great inside linebacker classes where it's Chris Cole and Justin Williams. I think just how stacked this is in the starter position, at least at inside, that it's going to be difficult for those guys to make as an impact as Raylan Wilson and CJ Allen did last year, just because they were down a little bit with injuries. Now, if that does happen injury-wise, they will step in, and I think they have the talent to play well. And Georgia's recruited so well at inside linebacker. But also Jalen Walker and what he's going to be able to do outside and inside. He's going to be playing two different positions. And Kirby Smart's talked about this, and Jalen has as well this offseason around the spring game. It was like the purpose of this is really to keep him on the field because Jalen is so athletic, great football mind. He's the son of a coach and knows the defense very well. And he's just – when he's on the field, Georgia is better. So Kirby Smart was like, how do I keep him on the field? Not only in first and second down, but also third down packages. I move him around. So he's going to play both, right? And that is a lot on him, and he's cross-trained there for a couple seasons now. So I think he's ready to take that step to be an all-around, all-field, all-down guy, right? And he has the speed and the size to really drop down if he wants to and take on tackles in the SEC, which is impressive in its own right. But also line up at inside, have to cover receivers, and have to stop the run from a downhill perspective like that on the inside, take on those massive guards in the conference. So that's what really excites me about that inside linebacker group. And you can add some outside guys into there as well, but they have a lot to prove, not much experience.
Now you talked about one of my favorite players, and that's CJ Allen. CJ Allen is on the defensive side of the ball. He is Dylan Bell to me. Now, for people who don't really dig into the recruiting aspect side of things, people say CJ Allen, you go, okay, he's a really good linebacker. No. Let me give you somebody you probably do know was really, really good. A young man by the name of Roquan Smith. You probably heard of this guy. Roquan Smith was the number 2 outside linebacker nationally, and he was the number 5 player in the state of Georgia, and we all know how good he was. CJ Allen was the number 5 linebacker in the country and the number 4 prospect in the state of Georgia. So I won't say that he is going to be as good as Roquan Smith, but I will say that coming out of the gate, he is showing all of the same features and capabilities as Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, again, he went in the first round for sure. So you probably have a first-round draft pick in CJ Allen. If you didn't know anything else about him, just know that.
Yeah, and he's going to be a lot more comfortable this year. I mean, he's played at a true freshman. He played well. He stepped in when Jamon went down with that broken arm and then missed the rest of the season. I mean, that putting him in that position, and, Kirby Smart asked a lot, and Glenn Schumann asked a lot of their inside linebackers.
They expect those inside linebackers to be just as quick at reading the offense as they want the quarterback at reading the defense.
Yeah, well, I mean, you are the quarterback of the defense and Kirby Smart defense there. Also safety, though. It's not just on one guy, and Malachi has that role now. But just thinking about, you have to know what I was getting at there was you have to know everybody's role on each call, each set that you're in. So just imagine another offseason and working in fall camp. He has a lot of reps to go before he even has to take his first snap against Clemson. I mean, that mental growth is what is going to make him better this season. So can he build on that and then, barring any injury, knock on wood, play the entire season and really grow there? And then that's where you're talking about number 1 pick there in the future if he can do that.
Absolutely. There's no East and West anymore. We all know that. So talking about the difference of what has happened or is happening to the SEC, guys, this is a great thing, and it's a double-sided sword because you could potentially end up with multiple teams that are rankings-wise equally ranked. You can have multiple teams that have 1 loss against teams that the other team doesn't play, so it's just kind of weird. But that having been said, what do you think is the most difficult game that Georgia's going to play this season?
Hype around it, Alabama, but I think on the field, Texas. You add in a road game to this. I don't think Georgia's going to go undefeated next year, and they don't have to. And for Georgia hearing that, I want to. And I wrote about this the other week when the FPI came out from ESPN, told us a bunch of different things, at least projections wise for guys, and it's if you can trust it or not, it's just kind of fun to dive into, but. When you think about the expanded playoff and then now the expanded SEC, and you think about the road games that Georgia has on its schedule, and then specifically Ole Miss, Bama, and Texas. And then, Texas is coming off that playoff appearance. So is Alabama, but Alabama has a largely new starting lineup. And obviously a massive coaching change that we haven't seen in a long time. So they have a lot of pressure. They have a lot of work to do as far as getting that comfortability and camaraderie with each other and the coaching staff, knowing what they have in its players. But, they brought half of Washington's roster, it feels like. So at least they have that first step kind of done. But I think Texas on the field and that defensive offensive line, you have Quinn Ewers, you have a lot of weapons on the outside. I know they're loss worthy, but you still have a lot of weapons there, and AD. Still have a lot of weapons there. Defensively, I think they might be better. And they did really well in the portal as well. They added some talent. So, and I think Sark showed last year that he's progressing in one of the top coaches in college football. And he has that Texas money, and he has that backing from that massive athletic department. And then the fans, I think the fan base is going to be crazy for that game because they want to prove that they're back. There's going to be a lot of hype around there, but I think on the field as well is when Georgia's going to really face a tough challenge in that game. Now, Kirby Smart really gets his players ready for these road games, and I think they're going to be pumped as well. So there's not going to be any lacking motivation there for the Dogs. Yeah. You're right, but I can see Georgia dropping one of those games and maybe Alabama, but I think Alabama has so much to get ready for that a September 28th game and early in the season against a Georgia team that has a lot of comfortability in its coaching staff and its players, and probably the number one overall pick at quarterback. I mean, that's going to be really, really tough for Alabama to walk away with a win, in my opinion. But then that Texas game is in October. It's in mid-October, or late October, I should say. So Texas is already going to be rolling at that point as far as those early miscues that every team faces early in the season. And Georgia's going to face their own as well. But those teams are going to be rolling at that time. And barring any major injuries, which I feel like you always have to say in this game, the sport that we love, barring any major injuries, they should be rolling at this point in time. And that's going to be a really, really hard matchup for both teams to walk away with a win. But I could see Georgia dropping one there.
I'm quite a bit of an optimist here on this list. I'm not, and I've caught a lot of heat for this, and that's okay. I'm good with it. I'll still stand by this. I'm not going to put a lot of faith in Kalen DeBoer until I see something. Just like I didn't put a lot of faith in Lane Kiffin. I'm not going to put a lot of faith in it until I see something. I think that this is a program that currently has a tremendous amount of talent. Alabama, they have a lot of talent on the field, but you could have one of the most talented rosters in all of college football and be abysmal, i.e. Texas A&M. It's one thing to be a great coach. It's another one to be a great coach that can manage great talent. If Alabama doesn't pull it together very, very quickly, this, in my opinion, this could be a terrible season for Alabama.
And we talk a lot about schedules, and if you get, two playoff teams last year like Bama and Texas, and we're talking about Georgia, that's one thing. Yeah. But kind of judging it almost as a soft before we get into the season is always, I just don't like it personally because the season completely, look at Missouri last year, and look at Tennessee 2 years ago and how they they were number one team when they came to town, to Athens. So it's like that can change a lot. But I do agree, like I said, with Kalen DeBoer having to prove something, I think it's going to be very difficult to follow the greatest coach of all time. And not only follow him, but have a new roster you have to get used to as well. And you're contending as one of the best teams in the conference, and you have that weight on you going into the expanded SEC with so many good teams in this league. And it's just, that's going to be a challenge in its own right. But I think he is a proven winner. Everywhere he's been, he's won. So I think it's only a matter of time for him, but can he do it this year?
Yeah, I can agree. So I don't know if you know this or not, but they just released the bowl schedules already. They've released the bowl schedules already. That just came out today. If you're seeing this and this is tomorrow, then it came out on the 7th. Brace yourself. The College Football National Championship game is going to be January 20th in Atlanta. So hopefully Georgia will be there. But man, talk about a late game in the season. What's your take on that, JC?
Dude, I can share a take on that. specifically, but the massive bowl schedule that was released, we're not used to that stuff, so I haven't even got a chance to really dive into it. But I did see the national championship, obviously. I'm here for more games. I don't care, man. I'll tell you that. I mean, I'm an NFL junkie too, and I feel like, I just, covering these players, and as they get to the league, I'm just excited to keep watching them and see what they do, and I pull for these guys. So if there's football on, I'm watching it, and extending this season, I don't really have a big problem with. It's still before the Super Bowl. You could put the end of the season in March, and I'm still good. It gives me more football. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking at. Now that said, it's obviously on a Monday, right, which nobody wants still.
Well, it's funny. Why is it on a Monday?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we might have to check this, but I'm pretty sure the inauguration is January 20th.
Is it really? You're right. Whenever the election schedule will be inaugurated on January 20th, 2020.
Okay. So what does that tell us? That tells us that college football and the national championship will compete with the inauguration of the United States of America president, the new president, whoever they may be. But they won't contend with the NFL. And that is just hilarious to me. There's things we do not know. That's what that tells us. Yeah.
Well, here's the weird part is, so you have the semifinal. Let me back up, run through the whole list here real quick. So the playoffs start. They start on December 20th, which is a Friday. I don't know why, guys. I don't know why. They don't ask me. They could, but they won't. And what do you do? So Friday, December 20th, CFP first round game, campus site. By the way, if you don't know, the first 4 games, the first round CFPs, those games are 8 teams. The top 4 are going to get a 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed. They're going to move on to the automatic second round, quarterfinal round. But those first 4 games, they're going to be on campus sites, which I think in and of itself is something worth talking about. I mean, can you imagine having a college football playoff game at a Jordan-Hare Stadium, at a Rocky Top, at a Death Valley, whichever Death Valley you prefer? I mean, even in as much as I would hate to say it, it's probably never going to happen, at least in the foreseeable future. But in Gainesville, in Florida, I mean, that would be absolutely nuts. Can you imagine a Georgia playing a Florida in Gainesville at a CFP game?
Be historic. It'd be historic. But I will tell you, Georgia's not going to be playing in no first-round game for a while.
No.
So, but unfortunately, because I would love it. I mean, absolutely. I mean, make them all on campus.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to do it because these independent bowls want their money. But, but absolutely, I that was one of the most things that I was excited about when we changed to this format. And I just can't wait to watch them. And obviously, like we said, Georgia's probably not going to be there, especially this year with the talent they have, and Carson Beck and Kirby Smart still cooking. But watching these games as an outside, college football aficionado lover, it's going to be awesome, man.
Oh, I am here for it. I'm also excited that they came out and they actually are doing the NCAA game. Yeah, it's been how long?
I've written a lot about that. I mean, I'm excited about it. Everybody's excited about it. I feel like people are just eating up every bit of information. But I will say for your older folks out there, you cannot play this game on your PS4 or your Xbox One. It has to be the newer gen console. I just feel like that's important to note, because I told one of my friends who's an older guy the other day that he was excited for it. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, man, you're going to have to drop $500, $600, whatever you get it at, dollars just to play the $70 game. So,
well, it's going to be on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS. I don't know how long it will be or if they will ever put it onto the PC platform, but there's a lot of people that actually still play on PC. Play a lot of games on PC, but yeah, I'm excited. I have 2 PS5, so I know I'm old, but I got it covered. That's
good, man. Brett, if you want to talk business, I'll take one off your hands, because I haven't got one yet. We gotta make a move. Yeah, man. Dude. I play rarely. I've had a PS4 Pro since 2017. Wow. Yeah, no. Yeah, I'll tell the fiance that I'll update her on that. So maybe we can pull some from the honeymoon. We would just stay at a Motel 6 instead and I'll get a PS5.
Man, just drop some Uber for a couple of weeks, man. You'll be well, guys. I got to tell you. Oh, real quick question. I'm digging that hat though. Where did you get that hat from, man?
Yeah, I'm repping one of our partners at the Players Lounge. So DDG Outdoors, started by Cade Brock, former Georgia football player. He just graduated. And, you know, they've done some videos with us in the past where they take out Georgia football players and they hunt, they fish. You might have seen the video of Kendall Milton shooting a couple of does last year.
Yeah.
And I'm a country boy at heart. So we were at a Players Lounge event in Athens. That's one of the things we didn't talk about. If you subscribe to the Players Lounge on the site, which you can find our editorial content, all our videos there, and additional content, more than you can get on YouTube. You also get access to tickets to these events we do. And I'm sure there's going to be one. We haven't had plans in place. I don't think we might have, but I haven't been told about it. As far as a tailgate for the Clemson game in Atlanta, we had one for the spring game. We did Oregon a couple of years ago, Tennessee. We have these tailgate events, usually at Creature Comforts in Athens. You can come and meet former Georgia Letterman. Aaron Murray's there. Keith Marshall's always there. And additional guys who used to strap it up in Sanford Stadium. But they had these guys at DDG Outdoors out there selling hats. And I saw this one. I was like, I absolutely have to get that. All right. Because I don't want to wear too much Georgia stuff on my calls. We're taught in sports media. Well, walls is one thing. We're taught because I'm an alum. So I just say, I just graduated from there. So that's why I have this stuff.
There you go.
But yeah, anyway, we were taught in sports media class in Athens that we used to get docked points for wearing any logos to class because it's frowned upon or anything like that, your respective team. And I would just turn my hat backwards and hopefully I got away with it because that's all I had basically. But no, I saw this one. I had to get it. You can get more of this stuff too at their website if you'd like.
Yeah, guys, go check those guys out. It looks pretty cool, man. I like that.
Thank you. I do want to say one thing that I've been thinking about a lot on defense here before we get going. I'm going to grab something to eat. But Mykel Williams and moving to more of an edge role, really excited about that. So you already have a lot of returning talent from this defensive line. I wrote a lot about this pre-spring because Kirby Smart was vocal about that defensive line not playing up to Georgia's standard last year. He said they're good. They weren't great. They weren't game breakers. They weren't those havoc wreakers that Georgia had in those really big-time historic defenses with your Jalen Carters and your Jordan Davises and Devontae Wyatts and those guys, which makes sense. They're all first-round picks. But I think this year they have a chance to really build with the experience they have, and Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse deciding to return. But then also Mykel Williams moving more to an edge role because last year he was forced to play inside at times. And Georgia did it basically as they didn't have those really talented bodies in there that were playing really well up to their talent level, I would say. And I think that group this year, and you add in Kristen Miller and Tyrone Ingram-Dawkins, who's hopefully going to be healthy. And he missed a lot of last season and missed the spring too. So hopefully he's healthy there as well. So I think the depth that you have there is able to move Mykel out to a more of an edge role. And that's really, really shined as a true freshman. And he got true freshman All-American honors for that year. I think he has a big year. I really do. I can't wait to watch him and that defensive line group really mold and see if they can play better. Because that's a very big focus for Kirby Smart and that staff and Trey Scott. They have the talent there as far as recruiting wise. Can these guys really step up? And it's going to be very important. We look back at those big time road games that we're talking about. I mean, that's a good way to really shut down these guys on the road in this large environment with these crazy fans, especially Texas, the first time getting, and Georgia might be number one at that time, first time getting that kind of game in Austin. I mean, you think about that, and how do you really shut that offense down early and kind of get the crowd out of it and start working on you really putting your foot on their throats as you get sacks, you get pressures. Right, you get tackles for loss. So I think that's a big thing for me. I can't wait to watch Mykel and this guys.
Well, I think we could do two videos if we had the time on recruiting and how unbelievable Kirby Smart and his team are at recruiting. You can make videos all year long about that. The defense stepping up is going to be a great addition. I feel like we had a lot of spots we were pretty young at last year. And I think those are going to have a lot more experience. One of the things that I know we could do 3 shows on, but we'll just touch on it here real quick, is how many games do you think that we are going to see Gunnar Stockton get to play?
Off the top of my head, we'll go definitely Tennessee Tech. I want to say Florida, but I think they're going to be improved this year enough. Mississippi State. Mississippi State. Yeah, they have a lot of rebuilding to do there with the new staff. There's a possibility. There's one more cupcake that it's
UMass.
UMass. Okay, those are mine. I think everybody else, Carson's going to run with them. But, you know, it's so hard to tell. I mean, Georgia's, if they're able to play up to their standard, which, you know, at times it's just not going to happen every game. But if they're able to play up to these standards against these lesser teams, he's definitely going to get in. I think this will be valuable. And I think Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo, they're going to want to get him in, especially because all he's had is mop-up duty, but at least it's reps. And he needs as many game reps as he can because, God forbid, something happens to Carson. He's going to have to step in, and Georgia's not going to slow down in their expectations. So I think that's big for him to get some of these game reps, even though it is garbage time.
So I'm going to ask you, who do you think is going to be the potential first-round picks at the end of this year if they have a good year? Carson Beck, given.
Carson Beck, Michael Williams is going to be top 5 most likely, barring injury. Like I said, we'll go back to my other points about him moving to the true edge role, which he'll play in the league. He's got Trayvon Walker written all over him, which, you know, I'm not trying to put that expectation on him, but I think he goes first. Smile Mondon should be towards the end of the first round, if not early second. Malachi Starks is, I think, top 20, right?
Yep.
And because Caleb Downs is, you know, he's still got another year after that. Him and Starks would contend for that first safety off the board, but I think Starks has got it in the bag, all things considered. Who else defensively? I mean, I really think that's it. I think defensively in the first round to me. Yeah. Offensively, you know, ETN, he's a running back. No matter if he goes off right now, he's not going to go first round. I mean, running backs are so undervalued right now in the NFL. And for basically good reason. There's so many good guys that teams know they don't have to go high up and draft and pay this rookie when they can get somebody in the 3rd, 4th round that really does what they need to do. Offensively, I think, you know, offensive line, Ernest Green, right? He'd be one of the first tackles.
Ernest Green for sure.
Yeah. And Tate Ratledge being a guard, I think he's so good, and he's routinely graded as one of the best guards in college football. Now, does the NFL view him that way? And that's the thing. And I covered, 16 hours of draft this last year. I've covered it since 2020. It's a lot. I kind of get tired of it by the 3rd round, but I still do it. And one thing I've learned is these mock drafts and how guys view them is not how the NFL does. They really prioritize these really, really good offensive linemen. So you might not see Ratledge in the 1st round of mocks, but I think there's a real possibility that he goes in the 1st as well.
Yeah, there's some drafts out there that have him very, very late in the 1st, like number 29. I mean, he's right there. I think if he has a dominant year, he might move up to 25, but I think if he just continues to play like he is, you never know who they're going to pick. He has the potential to go 1st round, but I think late 1st or mid 2nd.
I'll give you a dark horse here too. A very, very dark horse, honestly. Warren Brinson, if he goes off this year, which I know he has the talent to do it. He was one of our first athletes at the Players Lounge, covered him a lot. He has the talent to do it as a former 5-star. He's battled injuries. He's battled those guys that we mentioned earlier from those historic defenses playing ahead of him. Right, this is his year. This is if he's going to do it. And that's a big reason why he returned. If he's going to do it, he has the experience. He knows the defense. He knows this league, this conference. Go do it. If he goes and does it, I mean, he has the measurables. I think he'll really measure well at the combine. I think he could be a really, really dark horse.
I've got some great pictures of this guy. I can't explain this to anybody who's never been there, but I'm 6 foot 275, so I'm not tiny, right? Whenever you see Warren Brinson stand up, it's scary. The guy's huge, and to see him move like he does, he reminds me of a Jordan Davis. He's extremely athletic, extremely strong, and I think you're right. I think if he stay healthy, there's certainly a possibility he could go 1st round. JC, I can't tell you how grateful I am. I really appreciate you coming on. Guys, if you get a chance and you've made it this far in the video, pause the video. I promise you we'll stay right here. Hit the like button, and while you're doing that, hit the Players Lounge button. Go over there and hit a subscribe and follow those guys. You really want to stay tuned in to this as we get closer and closer to the season. I know that Aaron Murray, I know that JC, I know that Keith Marshall are going to keep this thing ramped up, and they're going to keep expanding their influence and impact, and they're going to have more and more players in. As we get closer, the information is going to get better and better because it's going to be more applicable. I think that's the right word. So
nailed it.
Yeah. So guys, again, appreciate you, JC. Thank you for coming on. Go check out the Players Lounge, sub up for those guys, and we'll be seeing you guys real soon. Anything else you want to say, JC?
No, I just want to say I appreciate you having me on. Happy to do it. Love talking ball anytime I can. You know, the schedule very demanding, so I'm glad we're able to get on here. But also, shameless plug, I do have my own podcast, UGA Football Live with JC Shelton. You can find that on YouTube as well and anywhere you get your podcasts. So I appreciate you letting me do that.
Yeah.
Hey, that's perfect. There it is.
I knew it was going to come in at some point. So if you see
former Georgia tight end Arthur Lynch comes on me on a regular basis, and he has some great insight, man. He's an historian of college football, really, beyond just playing in the league for a little bit and obviously playing for the Dogs.
Yeah. So if you see this logo over there, this is the guy. This is who you're talking with right now is JC Shelton. Leave your comments down below. If you guys have any questions that you guys want JC to answer, put them down there. I'll fire it over to JC. He's been super responsive. It's taken a little while to get our schedules lined up, but man, he's great to work with. So really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for being here. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Leave your comment down below, and we will see you guys real soon. Thank you so much. Have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.